The holy city of Jerusalem lies atop the Judean hills, on a watershed which borders on the desert. It has been fortified, conquered, and destroyed many times during the last 3,000 years. So it comes as no surprise that many of the secrets of Jerusalem lie buried under layer upon layer of ruins. In order to get to know the holy city, one must go underground. We read in the book of Samuel, David took the stronghold of Zion, the city of David. And David said, whosoever smiteth the Jebusites and getteth up the gutter, he shall be chief and captain. For a long time, many people believed that this was the gutter, an underground passageway leading from within the city walls to the Gihon Spring, Jerusalem's only natural water source, and that it was through this tunnel that King David's warriors infiltrated into the Jebusite stronghold. Archaeologist Professor Yigal Shiloh describes.
We've been following the shaft from the well up into the city. This was in fact a secret access to the spring, which actually lay outside the city walls. When we go out from here, we find ourselves well within the fortifications.
It was on this sloping ridge above the Gihon Spring that King David first made of Jerusalem the capital city of the land of Israel. Today, this city of David lies outside the present walls of Jerusalem, and it is here that Professor Shiloh's archaeological expedition has been hard at work uncovering Jerusalem's buried secrets for a number of years now.
Here we have the opportunity of comparing the architecture on the opposite banks of the Kidron Valley. The village of Silwan is today also built on a series of terraces, each house supported by the bedrock of the slope and by its neighbor beneath. But this is a present-day village of private homes. Here, on the opposite slope, we can see that the city of David was extremely well planned, and the fortified wall halfway down the hillside shows that this was definitely an important royal center.
The city of David was guarded on its northern flank by a fortress built on the foundations of a former Canaanite bastion. This may well have been King David's first royal residence. However, like all royal cities, Jerusalem was destined to expand. When King David made of it his capital, it had no more than some 4,000 inhabitants. Later, David's son Solomon would build the first temple on the site of his father's altar, said to be erected on the very rock on which Abraham was prepared to sacrifice his son Isaac. Today, this foundation rock is housed within a vast domed mosque, but the Muslims also revere the patriarch Abraham. The Temple Mount became the focus of Jewish faith, and it was to here that Jesus came to preach his word. Ever since, Jerusalem has been a spiritual center for the three great monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, Islam. And each of them has left its own traces, both on and below the surface. The secrets of the kings of Israel lie underground. When Jerusalem was endangered by the Assyrian invaders, it was King Hezekiah who fortified the city and ordered an underground passageway to be dug in order to channel the precious waters of the Gihon Spring into underground reservoirs well within the city walls. Two groups of tunnelers started at opposite ends and, seemingly miraculously, met in the middle within a few meters of each other. Modern research has come up with perhaps a simpler explanation. Hezekiah's tunnel meanders for a total length of some 580 meters, 2/3 longer than a straight line from its start to finish. Nowadays, it's held that this might mark a natural fissure in the bedrock, which the ancient king's tunnelers simply widened. Whatever the case, Hezekiah's reservoir, the Siloam Pool, is situated close by the Arab village of Silwan, outside the present old city walls, which again arouses the question archaeologists are still trying to solve. What were the exact dimensions of Jerusalem before the fall of the first temple? Again, the answer lies beneath the surface. Clearly, the city expanded uphill to the west, but just how far? Mount Zion, traditionally the site of the Last Supper, is a small enclave, still, strictly speaking, outside the city walls. It is also, traditionally, the site of the tomb of David, a place of pilgrimage for devout Jews for many a long year. However, the scriptures tell us that David, unlike any other, was buried within the city walls. This was an unusual honor, since Jewish law stipulates from time immemorial that the dead be buried close by the walls, but outside them. In David's time, Mount Zion was clearly far from his city. Looking to the east, across the Kidron Valley, we can find conclusive proof that the city of David did not expand in this direction. The present-day Arab village of Silwan is, in fact, a living community built on an ancient graveyard. Archaeologist Gabi Barkai shows us a fascinating feature of the village.
המערות האלה משולבות בתוך בתי מגורים של כפר השילוח, כאשר עד היום גרים בתוכן חלק
The houses of Silwan are built over entries to ancient burial caves. Some are even inhabited. Others serve as storerooms or stables for livestock.
כמחסנים, כדירים, כלולים וכדומה. אנחנו מתוך הסלון של המשפחה יכולים לעבור.
We can actually walk straight out of this family living room into an ancient tomb.
הקרקובים האלה ידועים במערות אחרות ביהודה, כמו במערות...
Here, the carved lintels tell us just how ancient this cave must be. Several similar caves have been discovered in the Judean hills, others as far away as Armenia, the burial places of the kingdom of Ararat. Those caves date back to the 8th century before the Common Era, which means that these caves must be from the same period.
800 years before the Common Era, the city was expanding uphill and to the west, what is today part and parcel of the old walled city. Its southwestern corner, traditionally the Jewish quarter. Here again, excavations started before the rebuilding of the ruined area after 1967 have revealed more evidence of the size and shape of ancient Jerusalem. It was in that same period that people first started building houses on this slope of the hill. It was the typical dry stone walling of the period. By now, however, Jerusalem was a city with suburbs. Not all of the inhabitants dwelt within the safety of its walls. There were new neighborhoods to the west, now marked by the Muslim quarter close by the Damascus Gate. Again, the proof lies beneath the surface. Just across the road from the present Jerusalem walls stands the monastery of Saint-Étienne. Beneath it lies a series of burial chambers still used by the Reverend Fathers. Until recently, it was believed that these tombs dated back only as far as the Second Temple period. However, modern archaeology has revealed that these were designed according to the ancient measure of the Amma, which means that they must date back to the First Temple before the Babylonian exile. The measurements are exact. There are troughs in which to place the head of the deceased. There are also nether chambers, where the bones could be disposed of to make room for the next comer. This could be the origin of the biblical phrase, "He was gathered unto his fathers." From above, Jerusalem hides its secrets. The actual site of the Holy of Holies remains a subject for conjecture. The Temple Mount remains a subject of mystery and belief. In the days of the kings of Israel, the city was a throbbing center of worship, law, commerce. Much of the evidence of these things can be found only below the surface by the steady probing of the archaeologists. On the basis of semi-ruined buildings painstakingly unearthed, models can be built, reconstructing the two-story buildings built so long ago to match the hilly landscape. Ancient seals, unearthed from 1,000-years-old rubble, bear witness to the biblical writings.
We have found more than 80 names on these personal seals, and they're all quite definitive. Two names, X, son of Y. Here, for example, Benaiah, son of Isaiah. And here, more important, Jeremiah, son of Shaphan. Checking out the scriptures, we find that the prophet Jeremiah mentions this name more than once. He and his father were both important scribes at the court of Jehoiakim, king of Judah.
Discoveries like these are what archaeology is all about. And it all lies beneath the surface, buried under layer upon layer of the past. Emerging from an excavation reaching back over 2,000 or 3,000 years, it comes as a shock to realize that one is suddenly back to today's level of history. Whether it be in the market in the Muslim quarter, or just down the road in the Jewish quarter. Sections of charred fortifications deep beneath today's Jewish quarter date back to the Babylonian invasion and the fall of the First Temple after these very walls were breached. Archaeologist Hillel Giver describes some of the finds.
Within these charred ruins, we found several arrowheads, 3 of iron and 1 of bronze. There is no question that these are relics from that battle for Jerusalem more than 2,500 years ago.
Jerusalem was laid waste, but never abandoned. Throughout the long exile in Babylon, the Jews wept as they remembered Zion. And when Cyrus, king of Persia, permitted the Jews to return home, work was started on rebuilding and refortifying the city, which now acquired a different shape and an extra layer of history for future archaeologists to explore.
After
the fall of the first temple, the southwestern slope remained unpopulated for several hundred years. So it was in this area that the returning Jews began to rebuild their homes. It was one of the Hasmonean kings who fortified this part of the city with dry stone walling some 4.5 meters thick. This was the northern section of what the Roman historian Josephus Flavius later described as the first wall. It ran east to west, from the Temple Mount as far as the citadel, known also as the Tower of David. Today, of course, this wall lies deep below the surface of the more recent layers of Jerusalem's history.
From the citadel, the Hasmonean fortifications ran south, guarding the western approaches to the city. This was the same line followed by the Turks, who rebuilt the ramparts in the 16th century. But they were building on the foundations of the Crusader walls, which were built on the ruins of the Roman walls, built on the Egyptian, and so on, back to the Hasmoneans. When King Herod the Great embarked on his vast building projects, he was careful not to encroach on the sanctity of the tombs across the Kidron Valley on the slopes of the Mount of Olives. Thus it is that the tombs of Bnei Chizir and Zechariah remain almost the only examples left of the might and magnificence of the Hasmonean kingdom. In recent years, much has been uncovered about the Second Temple, as expanded and beautified by King Herod. Quite a few historical theories have been modified in the light of recent discoveries. 32 broad steps lead to the sealed gates of Huldah, once the main approach to the Temple Mount. Professor Nir Ben-Dov has been excavating this area since 1967.
We are now next to the Huldah gates, in this instance, the Western Arch. The carvings and decorations are not the original, but Muslim additions, behind which we can find the original stones of the Second Temple period. This was the exit from the Temple Mount for thousands of worshippers who, having participated in the holy rites, would stream out of the gate down these broad steps into the vast public square which lay below.
As a result of painstaking excavations over the last 15 or so years, Professor Ben-Dov has been able to construct a model of the Temple Mount, which is the most accurate reconstruction known so far. It also disproves several established historical theories. Robinson's Arch is a buttress in the wall supporting the Temple Mount, named after the 19th century explorer who first made note of it.
Before the present excavations, it used to be thought that this marked the start of a bridge, which led directly from the Temple Mount to the upper town, in the direction of the king's palace, probably for the personal use of King Herod himself. Today we know that this was a sort of pedestrian flyover, leading up to the colonnades and then back down to the road below, which led to the main entrance to the Temple Mount.
The Temple Mount is in fact a vast artificial plateau, a masterpiece of engineering in ancient times. Today it is very different from what it was in the time of King Herod. The last vestige of the Second Temple is the Western Wall, one of the retaining walls of this artificial mount. It is this last relic which marks the nearest the Jews of today can approach the one-time Holy of Holies. Again, the only glimpses of what the distant past must have been like are to be found deep below the surface. The Western Wall today, now visible and serving as a place of worship, is in fact only a fraction of the still existing wall bounding the western flank of the mount. More than 400 meters of underground tunneling lead us to another of Jerusalem's hidden secrets.
The lintels of the gates leading into the temple area were usually made from a single huge block of masonry. Here, this is not the case. This is the original entryway, but the lintels are from the Roman period. During the Muslim period, this was also used as an entry to Temple Mount, but nowadays it is blocked up. Were we able to go through, we could see a magnificent arched chamber. Here we reach the very bedrock of the city. This was where they started building the supporting walls of the artificial plateau. The foundation stones can be identified by their carved margins, and from here on up they mark the very start of the western wall of the Temple Mount. It is from here that we can tell the exact height of the mount at the time of King Herod.
King Herod's temple was destroyed on the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av in the year 70 of the Common Era, when Roman legions, subduing the Jewish rebellion, stormed and fired the mount, thus bringing about the second exile of the Jews from their homeland. It is this tragic event, 2,000 years ago, that today the Jews of Jerusalem recall each year at the foot of the Western Wall, by spending the night seated on the ground and reading Lamentations. Uphill from the Western Wall, in what was once referred to as the Upper City and is now known as the Jewish Quarter, once again ruined after 1948, then rebuilt after 1967, archaeologists discovered a mute witness to that awful night. The burnt house, the home of one of the temple priests. During the raging fires, the roof had collapsed. the skeleton of a woman was unearthed, her back broken as she tended her cooking stove. Almost miraculously, they preserved clay pots, domestic implements, enough to give a vivid picture of just what life in ancient Jerusalem must have been like some 2,000 years ago. This is also what archaeology is all about. A living contact with the dead of the past. There is an old Arab proverb which says, "The way is wiser than the man." The principal gate in the northern wall of the city has existed from time immemorial. It leads to the ancient road to Damascus. Recently, beneath the grand portals built by the Turkish Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent in the 16th century, 20th century archaeologists have unearthed its predecessor, below ground level, the Roman gateway into Jerusalem from the north, blocked up and buried for generations. Inside the gateway, one walks over ancient paving dating back to Roman times. For this is the start of the Cardo, the main highway running through the city, long sought by archaeologists and historians as the main architectural feature of almost every Roman-built city. Jerusalem has 4 walls, 12 gates, some of them blocked, and 3 levels: the heavens, the earth, and what lies below. Archaeologists are still striving to unearth the secrets of all 3.